You are restricted, appropriately restricted, Max.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, let's jump into it. Welcome back, everybody. Today's session is really a good opportunity. Sorry, I'll just swap my settings there. Good opportunity to ask any questions about the Safe System Assessment you're currently undertaking. So if you need any clarification, or you've come across something interesting, or still scratching your head about some aspect of it, feel free to jot the question into the chat, or just raise your hand and we can have a chat about that. And you can ask your question live. So Max will give you the ability to unmute yourself. But I'm hoping you're sort of quite well progressed into that Safe System Assessment. And yeah, of course, there is the option to organise a one-on-one chat with Max or myself to discuss any bits and pieces. But yeah, we're hoping you get that in the next week or so, and then things are finalised. And Max will show you at the end how to collect your certificate after you've done that and it's been marked. Yeah, then you'll get a little pack in the mail eventually, which will have a hard copy of that certificate and any prizes you've collected along the way. Okay. So, as I mentioned, this session's about having a discussion about anything that you've got in terms of questions, but also having a bit of a chat broadly about the benefits of Safe System Assessments. Now that you know the process and you know the philosophy and you know how they're done, like, are they worth it? Are they worth the effort to go through in projects? And you'll find out that they really are. But there's actually been some evaluation done on Safe System Assessments and how beneficial they can be within infrastructure projects, particularly. So I'll show you a bit of that. I'll talk to you about the process of Safe System Assessments within infrastructure projects, so the life cycle of an infrastructure project from the planning phase all the way through to construction, and where the Safe System Assessment would fit. And we'll have a bit of a chat about Safe System Assessments versus road safety audits. And I'll talk you through also some of the accreditation and different registers of Safe System Assessments, which hopefully you will decide you would like to become a accredited or qualified Safe System Assessor. It depends which jurisdiction you're working in. There's little nuances, but I'll take you through that. Don't forget to count your wallies, of course. Okay, well, I'll jump in with a bit of discussion about the benefits of Safe System Assessments, or the evaluation of some Safe System Assessments, independent evaluation done by Blair Turner, who now works for the World Bank. But yeah, so I'll take you through this. Here's the output of it. One of the outputs. Of course, it's a research evaluation report, but I think this one sums it up really well. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this chart because I think it tells quite a story about Safe System Assessments, but also how we go about infrastructure projects. So let me give you a bit of the background. The evaluation was of 35 Safe System Assessments. So they were done by a variety of consultants and some Victorian government internal teams. So the Safe System engineering team, for those who know the Victorian teams. So a variety, and they were done on major infrastructure projects. Now I'm talking major. So these are, like town bypasses, big $100 million duplication jobs. That size, $100 million plus really projects. So not small stuff. And what they did was they took the project and they took the design that was given to the Safe System assessors, and they took the Safe System assessment. And what they did was they used a crash prediction model, a 20-year crash prediction model. So it's based on the IRAP methodology, the International Road Assessment Program methodology, which is for the same variables as ANRAM, the Australian National Risk Assessment Model, and a few others. But it takes a whole lot of variables of the road, the traffic, the growth, the speeds, it's like 68 infrastructure variables. So, like the lane width, the presence of barriers, the type of barriers, the shoulders, the intersection form, the number of, all of that stuff. It gets plugged into this very complex risk assessment methodology, plus a standard crash rate for that type of road environment in the jurisdiction you're looking at. Anyway, the long and short of it is that you can use this to fairly accurately predict crashes into the future. And I say fairly accurate. Of course, it's not going to be absolutely precise, but it's pretty good from looking at predictions and then looking at the actual results. So what they did is they used a 20-year crash prediction, and they looked at some scenarios. And the scenario was down here. First of all, no project. So this would be they are not going to make this massive investment in infrastructure. What's going to happen? The original design being the design that was produced by, well, the multinational design houses, the big designers, churned off the production line, and it was at a concept level, or sort of like a maybe functional, or not quite functional design level. It was sort of reference design level. Maybe it was functional, reference design style stuff. Then they looked at the safe system assessment that was done on that reference design and said, okay, if they were to implement everything that the safe system assessor has recommended, or if there were conflicting recommendations, they pick the primary one of those, or the better bang for your buck one of those. And then finally, it was what the actual adopted project was after the safe system assessment. So they took on some of the ideas. So let's have a look at this. So of course, we've got fatal and serious injury crashes predicted over a 20-year period. And if no project was to build in these areas, so like for the town bypasses, for example, it was, okay, this is going to go through the town now, continue to go through the town. We're not bypassing. Or the duplication is not going to happen, but we're still going to have traffic growth. And anyway, so 7,900 serious injuries, 344 fatalities in these areas over the next 20 years. The designs brought things down to 6,700 serious injuries, 286 fatalities. Now, the high safe system alignment brings it all the way down to 3,890 and 167 fatalities. And what ended up being adopted, 5,227. So what does that tell me? Okay, it tells me quite a bit, actually. It tells me quite a story here. So first thing it tells me is that, I'm going to go with this. The difference between that and that tells me that the designs that at the time, this was sort of 3 or 4 years ago now, but being produced, were improving road safety. So there was no arguing that. They were doing something to improve road safety. Sure, they may have a lot of other benefits, freight efficiency, reduced travel time for vehicles, reduced congestion, those sorts of things as well. But we're just looking at the death and serious injury. The next thing it tells me is that we can do a whole lot better. Like, wow, look at that. We can get all of that saving if we're willing to adopt the high safe system aligned options and things that are being put forward. This difference here is quite interesting between there and there. That one to me is it's fascinating. Why is it that safe system assessors are recommending things and some of them are being taken on but not all? And it's a combination of things. So yes, sometimes it's funding. Sometimes they can't fund it. Sometimes it's their project team's perception of community acceptance of what's being proposed. Sometimes it's just that the project team doesn't like it or has never done it before, or says there's no standards or guidelines around that, or it competes, or it has a small erosion in one of our other project aspirations or values, like maybe small increase in travel time as a result of this. Maybe they don't think that it'll get through politically, a variety of reasons. I'll come back to that. But this difference between what was originally produced and what they've ended up accepting, that there is the immediate benefit of safe system assessments. Literally just going through the process of doing the safe system assessment, providing that scoring, providing those recommendations, and they can take them on within their project scope and the like. And so it's a pretty clear indication that we get value immediately out of a safe system assessment. Now, the evaluation didn't go into the cost of those changes. And I'm sure some of them had some increased costs. I do know some of them saved the project a lot of money. One particularly that was interesting to see was a town bypass, and the town bypass had this very large cross-section of a duplicated road and big clear zones and a big wide median. And so they were going through farmland, but also through a lot of native trees and the like. And that was just what they believed should be built. They had the old Austroads Guide to Road Design Part 6, which was roadside hazard management, basically. It said, big, wide clear zones. It was probably 12-metre clear zones at least, and big, wide median and the like. So they had this massive sway of land that they had, scheduled to buy. They had to clear all these trees, buy the native vegetation offsets. And the safe system assessment sort of came back and said, well, continuous barriers are going to give you a better safe system alignment here anyway. So, this can all be brought down to a very small cross-section. And so they saved money on land acquisition, saved a whole lot of trees, and the native vegetation offsets as a result of that. It saved a lot of money. But some of them did cost, add dollars to the project. So let me continue to talk about this. I'll just get rid of that. So that's the immediate value. But let's have a chat about a few other bits and pieces. One being this: high safe system alignment, and we're still having 3,890 serious injuries, 167 fatalities over the next 20 years in these areas. That's a bit scary, isn't it? Considering that the safe system's about the elimination of death and serious injury, and our safe system assessment is still leaving us with this residual. And that's the term we give this, the residual. And if you do any sort of Vision Zero strategy modeling or the like, what you end up discovering is that we have a residual of crashes that, with our current knowledge and our current tools available, we can't address. And so what we need to do is innovate, come up with new ways to approach this. So a lot of the crashes you see in the residual here are motorcyclists, high level speeders, these extreme driver behavior events, and the occasional sort of what you would say is freak events, but maybe they're not, because but what we need to do is look at all of those crashes and innovate and change the way we do things, and probably use a lot of the levers of the other elements of the safe system rather than infrastructure to try to improve these. Now, a lot of the recommendations in the safe system assessment around wider initiatives associated with education, vehicle initiatives, enforcement, and these sort of things. The prediction model basically said, yeah, that's good, but in this area, I mean, these are kind of statewide initiatives, national initiatives, and those sort of things. And you can't say that the education program at the school or whatever is going to local school is going to precipitate into savings on that road. Is a good thing to do. It probably has a lot of benefit. So in one sense, I go, well, this is probably shows that the crash prediction model is fairly real, because that if it said 0, you might go, okay. So that's more of a big picture strategy thing, where we need to innovate, we need to change the way we do things, pull some other levers of other elements of the safe system, and try to bring this down. And I think there's a lot of work to come in the next 30 years in that space. I think getting the designs off the production line better requires designers becoming more aware of safe system thinking, integrating energy management into their design parameters, updates to guidelines, standards, and the like to better reflect safe system thinking. And we're going to see that better. And in fact, having safe system assessments, this is one of the hidden benefits of safe system assessments, is that every time a safe system assessment is done, fed back to a design team, that design team learns something about safe systems. Right? They get better, because the next time they do a design and they're doing a similar thing, they all go, ooh. And it's really interesting to see with road safety auditing over the 30 years it's been in play, how it's been, my personal opinion is road safety audits have saved more lives from educating designers and project managers than it has for actually the alterations they have made in particular projects. And you sort of see it play out, where you do a road safety audit with a designer, and then a few years down the track, you come to a design that designer's done, and it's incorporated all of the things that you had mentioned as an auditor, or many of the things you had mentioned the auditor in many years back. So they've learned from it. So I think we're going to see wonderful benefits from that perspective. In terms of this one, the culture, the funding, the politics and all, I think there's going to be, there's a lot of work to go on that for us to, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of cultural change. We need to keep working on that in different ways. But I think that tells quite a story. It's probably enough of me sort of talking about a graph in this way, but I love to read stories out of these sorts of outputs. But any questions there, Max?
We did just have one, Ken, just to confirm the FSI crashes and how that was actually evaluated as part of this research there. Ken, if you want to answer that live.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Having a little hay fever at the moment, which is fun. That's all right. Yeah, okay. So if you utilize IRAP, OSRAP, ANRAM, any of those tools, you can basically get a risk score for a road or a design. And then what you need to do is utilize either crash history of an area or typical crash rates to get an indication of a projection of where crashes would go. And then you basically risk rate your existing road environment, and you get your prediction model baseline, and then you improve it, the risk score, with your infrastructure, and you get a new risk line, and you've got your predicted crash rate, and you just change it like a crash reduction factor. You factor in growth as well. So now there are assumptions into this, assumptions around latent demand, for example. So if you build pedestrian crossing facilities, are you going to attract more pedestrians to cross there? Or you build a bike facility, you can get lots more bikes. So the modelers make some assumptions in that, but that's essentially how it works. Yeah, I think that's probably enough of the description without going into a huge amount of detail.
Thank you, Ken.
Anything else?
No, all good so far.
All right. Now, I suppose the reason why I spent a bit of time on that is that you're going to leave this course, finish your assignment, get a certificate, hopefully jump on a register. You're going to be a safe system assessor. And we want you to be talking to your clients or your colleagues or others about safe system assessments, about their value, and helping them doing those safe system assessments on their projects, offering this service to others, and you can talk to them about some of the benefits of safe system assessments. And here's, I suppose, some of the other benefits at a less sort of specific evaluation level, but just more general. It's a really great way of determining how well a project aligns with safe system principles. And that's something that we haven't really been able to do in the past in any sort of structured way. It was just sort of kind of people's opinion and philosophy and debate about that. But this is a good, solid, systematic process for assessing alignment with safe system principles. Great method for comparing project design options. And we haven't had that from the road safety perspective in any sort of meaningful way before. Well, we sort of have, but this is a really great way. Like, because any of you who are road safety auditors or have done road safety audit courses and the like, you will remember that we're told that's not a tool for comparing options. Okay, that is a tool for identifying aspects of any road design or project that may cause death or serious injury, and trying to provide ways to minimize that risk. Now, a safe system assessment sort of does that as well, but it also gives you this clear way to compare options from a road safety perspective. And what I love is that, many of you have been involved in infrastructure projects for many years, and you know that in that sort of optioneering phase of projects, often the way it plays out, or it has played out a lot in the past, is, here's big traffic modeling report, the Syndra and microsimulation modeling, and then, hundreds of pages and numbers everywhere and level of services, A, B, C, and all of this sort of stuff. And everyone, if we do that, it'll make it a level of service C, right? So there's that. And then there was often also an environmental report that was quite good, a cultural heritage report. And there was a road safety audit, right? What I used to discover was that nobody argued with the traffic model. Well, I mean, there was tiny little specifics that, your traffic operations sort of person would question one little bit or piece, but it really didn't change anything. Environmental, yeah, accepted. You get to the road safety audit, and then it was just like everybody had an opinion. Oh no, that's no. Oh well, that's that doesn't. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that should be that risky. Everybody was really, and the audit report, as you know, is very sort of high risk, medium risk, low risk, whatever it is, quite subjective in that sense. It doesn't have those numbers and graphs with it. Now we're putting down this safe system assessment report. It's quite powerful. Now, you probably know a little bit too much about how the sausage is made in terms of the, how you get to that graph, and there are elements of subjectivity to it and opinion based. But it's presenting a more professional, I suppose, putting something down that puts us into the game for decision making in a similar way to some of those other areas. And I think that's pretty exciting, pretty amazing. And that's one of the reasons we're very keen that we see consistent outputs from safe system assessment. So use those templates that have been provided. Talk to your jurisdiction if you're in a different one to see if they've got a particular template they're using. But let's all continue to do that. Information on design changes will improve. They will move a project closer to safe system objectives. So that's a good one. Method to assist planners, designers, and project managers to move the safe system approach from theory to practice. And that's awesome, because as I talked about before, the safe system has in the past been a sort of philosophical concept that everybody just sort of, everybody agrees on. Yep, no, I'm all about the safe system. Yep. Elimination of death and serious injuries, great. Yeah, humans make mistakes. Yeah, take into account forces. And they sort of talk the talk and then just produce projects that are just what they were producing anyway, because that's what they do. But now we have something that to take some of those theoretical, philosophical concepts and make them more about concrete decision making. A sound basis for future planning and design of road infrastructure. Okay, Max, anything from me before I sort of talk through a bit about the process?
I just really enjoyed that expression you used of how the sausage is made. I haven't heard that before. I was thinking we could add that to our brochure, Safe System Assessments, learn how the sausage is made.
Yeah. So it's used a lot. Yeah. I spent part of my life in policy, in governmental policy around road safety policy and the like, and that was a term that is very much used in that space, especially with legislation. It's don't let people see how the sausage is made.
I like it. It's good. No questions though, so carry on.
Okay. Right. Safe system assessments process guidance. So what I want to do is talk through, in theory, how it's best played out. I'll talk to you a little bit about how some of the jurisdictions are doing things with safe system assessments. I'll talk particularly about Victoria, Victoria, Queensland, New Zealand, a little bit about New South Wales, and a little bit about South Australia as well. I can talk to other jurisdictions if particular interest from people, but I think that covers most of our participants. But at a theoretical level here, if you take a infrastructure project, and I'm going to concentrate on infrastructure projects rather than like mine sites or any of these, I talked about the versatility of the safe system assessment framework, but let's talk about infrastructure projects because 99% of safe system assessments are done on an infrastructure project. Going from a concept to a draft of a design, the details of that design, then constructing it, and then opening up to traffic. Safe system assessments are best done at those concept draft early stages, the planning, the optioneering phase. Once some clarity around the scope of the project is done and you're into the details, you're starting to look at your geometrics, your drainage, your pavement, stuff like that. The safe system assessment, it can work as a tool, you can use it, but we found that road safety audits are better served at that stage. And that sort of played out from real world where we've done safe system assessments on 80% designs, and they really get pissed off when your recommendations are to alter the fundamental form of the intersections or the alignment, or that they really just hand the report back and say, yeah, we don't want that. Thanks. We'll because it's gone. The decisions are made that are actually really going to give us fundamental alterations in safe system alignment. What they're expecting are things like, the barrier offset right, or is the flare rate of the barrier right, or have we got the correct crossfall at this location, those sorts of things, which are really important. Don't get me wrong. Somebody really needs to be reviewing and ensuring we get all that right. But I just find road safety audits better tool to be doing that. A little bit about some of the differences between road safety audits and safe system assessments. And this could probably be updated because we're getting road safety audits better aligned with safe system principles with each update to the Australians Guide. And there's another one about to be released, which I had been working on for a few years with some others. So they'll come out shortly, which gets us another step closer, but they're still distinct things. They're different things to a degree. Both are looking at the likelihood of crashes in really great detail. The severity of crashes, still going to say sometimes for road safety audits. Now, in theory, you'd give it a tick, but we just see in practice, there's a lot of auditors out there that are more focused on the likelihood and sort of make this assumption that if the likelihood is factors are correct, the severity is, you don't need to look at it. And your classic example is the high-speed signalised intersection, where you can just see audit after audit that comes in on a new high-speed signalised intersection that has lots of recommendations around the sight lines to the signals, the line marking, the advanced warning signage, the signal phasing, the alignment of the crossing facilities, the way bikes are, bike facilities and the like, but nothing associated with the fact that we have a high-speed signalised intersection there and people are going to run the red lights regardless of getting all of that right. Well, there's going to be incidents and the severity will be beyond what is tolerable by the human body. Like, their concentration is, let's get it so nobody crashes. And that's, that's so important that we go through that process. But it's so important also that some process is happening to talk about the management of energy during failure events. Identifies issues that impact the exposure to crashes. So, yeah, I mean, maybe we could put sometimes for audit, but yeah, really that exposure factor in its distinct element is a safe system assessment tool. Recommendations to improve road safety outcomes. Yep, they both do that. Consider all road users. They both should do that. Usually they do. Sometimes you get a little bias by a road safety auditor who might be a bit more of an old school car vehicle thinker who doesn't sometimes think as much about vulnerable road users as we'd like, whereas a safe system assessment forces that distinct column for consideration of each of the vulnerable road user categories. Focuses on fatal serious injury crashes only. Well, a safe system assessment's really honed in on that fatal serious injury end, whereas a road safety audit will have a look at sort of other injury, minor crashes, and those sorts of things, which can be useful. And certainly in managing a project, you'd want to be thinking about those in a bit of detail as well. Investigate safer vehicles, people, maintenance, post-crash care. I mean, the safe system assessment with those qualitative questions at the end is really forcing that general wide thinking. These you sort of put sometimes with road safety audits. Makes recommendations to redesign the project. And I mean fundamentally redesign the project. Intersection forms, alignments, those sorts of things. Audits really are more of, again, you're told not to redesign the project as an auditor. You're there to assist and provide advice on how they can, you can improve the safety with what they're planning rather than, questioning that. I suppose a feasibility stage road safety audit, there is a bit more of this early stage stuff. And really encouraging innovative designs to improve harm minimization. there's something about the process of road safety auditing, and I think it's because you're going in auditing looking for risk. And when we see innovative things like, raised intersections on arterial roads, signalised intersections, or new median barrier when they haven't been done before, or other innovative things, the tendency is to look at all the things, all the risk things. Now that's an important part of any process of innovation. You need to work through your risks and manage and have a process for risk management. But the nature of doing an audit on something new and innovative makes it so it looks really risky. Whereas the safe system assessment will do this logical look at how much it will improve the situation, present that, but then may, talk about some tweaks or alterations to the design to make it even better. And this is, this plays out, I've seen it play out, particularly with barriers in narrow flushed medians, where the road safety audits have come back and it's just lists of risk, doesn't meet the deflection requirements, nuisance hits, blocking the sight distances, frontal, forward sight distances. The list goes on, on and on and on, right? And these are all risks, but nothing is presented in that audit report to say that this is going to, reduce head-on crashes and run-off-road crashes by about 80%, right? That's not in there, and it's not part of an audit. I mean, that's not what the auditor's there to do, to talk about the benefits or anything like that. They're just what are the risks, and all those risks that they present are important. We need to work through those and try to, minimize them. But the safe system assessment is just a wonderful tool to just in your face. This is how much of a benefit this project's going to give. Now, here's some extra little things that we can do. Open up, widen it a little bit here so you get stopping sight distance or maneuvering sight distance forward, or see if we can increase the offset or stiffen up the barrier in these bits where it narrows down, or what, a little specifics. Also, that safe system assessment can be done at a program level, as I talked about, at a whole community level, mine site, you name it, it can pretty much be adapted and utilised. I was looking the other day, yesterday, I think one of my colleagues in Queensland posted about a busway in Brisbane there, and sort of using the different risks that are associated with that. Safe system assessments just work so beautifully in those sorts of scenarios where you logically look through the likelihood, the severity, the exposure, ask these wider qualitative questions around the vehicle safety features, seat belts or not, or, does it have lane keep technology? And you can really play it out, and it's structured and set for you. So I love the process for that versatility. And we've certainly used safe system assessments for some pretty out there different things, dedicated bike facilities, as I've talked about, mine sites. We've done busways as well, actually, that ran alongside a major new freeway. But yeah. Okay, anything there, Max, that I need to? I see a few little numbers popping up in the chat and the like.
I thought I might just share another little anecdote, if I can steal the floor for a sec, but just it might be a bit confusing as to why a safe system assessment focuses on fatal and serious injuries only. So you can see the tick is there for SSA and the cross for road safety audit. So I thought I'd just give an example of how that could be applied. So if you could imagine a car park at a shopping centre, and perhaps the design has a very narrow aisle width, perhaps it's less than standard, you would expect that would increase the risk of, as you're backing out of your car spot, you would collide with another vehicle. If a road safety audit was to look at that design, they would see that that collision type occurring frequently, and that would result in a high risk. So it would also look at the severity of the crash, but just due to the frequency of the crash, it would be already, this is a high risk, and red flags would be raised within that report. Within a safe system assessment, as we said, we look at exposure, likelihood, and severity. The severity of that backing up into another vehicle is very, very low. It's trivial. It's just having to send it off to the panel beaters, and there's no real risk to individual, like any risk of serious injury or anything like that. So the severity score would be very, very low. So in an RSA, you'd have this risk that gets announced that would be flagged as very, very high. In a safe system assessment, when we go to multiply out the scores, it's unlikely that that would be viewed as such as a high risk, because we are focused on the more fatal and serious injuries occurring. So hopefully that made sense as how those two different assessment methodologies could be used within, you know, the exact same project, but still have slightly different ways of reviewing that risk. Ken.
Thanks, Max. I think that is a really good example. And certainly at car park level, a road safety audit's a good thing to do. Like, and I think that explains why. Like, somebody came to us and said, you know, can you please do a safe system assessment for our proposed car park? I would advise them against it. I would say, no, I think you want a road safety audit done on that. Awesome. All right, let's keep ticking along here. I'll give you a little bit more, and Max is answering a few good questions behind the scenes. So let's just walk through the way this process works out for a safe system assessment. So the first thing is that I'll call it a client, could be a road authority, local government, could be state road authority. You know, they determine, first of all, are we going to do a safe system assessment? And if so, what sort of safe system assessment we're going to do? We're going to do a full safe system assessment or a rapid safe system assessment. I'll explain the difference between those two shortly. A rapid, just as the name suggests, is quicker. It's not that much quicker though. Like, it's not like one is a couple of hour exercise and one's a many day exercise. They're probably about 70% as much work. So somebody's determining that. And then selecting a safe system assessment team. Now, that, in a similar way to road safety audits, is a choice, you know, that they decide. Some independent body. Now, the choice on independence is blurred. It is different to a bit. There's less strictness on independence than there is in auditing, but it does say in the Victorian and the South Australian guidelines that the lead of the safe system assessment team must be independent from the project. Okay, so that's specified in there. Some other jurisdictions don't have that specifically, but the practice of industry seems to be some sort of independence from the project. But that being said, there's still value to be gained from the project team themselves or people within the project team utilising the assessment framework to get an indication of where their alignment with safe system principles and which areas are doing well and not doing well. But generally, it's done utilising independent groups, a bit like road safety audits, really. There's some sort of commencement meeting and exchange of information where the safe system assessment team, the road authority, the designers, you know, are there either all together in some sort of workshop meeting or the like, or it's exchanged. That information is passed across, and it's to gather the understanding of the context of the project, the to help understand and make sure that meaningful recommendations are produced, to get all that information about traffic volumes and growth and all those sorts of bits and pieces, and obviously just the logistics of, you know, when they need the report and those sorts of things. So that all then happens. And then it's over to the assessment team, and off they go, and they're probably going to go inspect the site, or they're going to review the designs and look at everything and inspect the site, complete the safe system assessment matrix or matrices, depending if there's multiple designs, but it's always that existing conditions and then however many designs that are produced. Then those qualitative questions are asked, and that may happen before the site inspection. So these sort of green ones could all be in any order, really. And the report, identify treatment. So the recommendations that are, how do we improve alignment with safe system principles for every design option that is produced? And that's all reported up using the consistent, format and the templates that are available to you. And you've got that now. Put your own branding on it. Absolutely, take it, color it, rebrand it, do whatever you want. Just make sure we're using the same output. We're producing the same outputs. Then it's back to the road authority and the design team to look at those recommendations and choose, are they going to take those on or not do those or do something else? And then the design is amended and things are incorporated. Now, at this point here, when they say, okay, we're going to do these three, but we can't do these 1, 2, we can do this one down here, we can't do that one, and instead of that one, we're going to do this other thing. They may go back to the safe system assessment team and say, can you score this new, what we're planning? So that would just sort of take you back to here, and you could rescore it and show them that benefit. And I actually really like that process from a number of reasons. You end up basically with a graph, though, that goes like existing conditions was here. Our design was here. And we did the safe system assessment and we updated our design and it got it down to here. And what a nice story that tells, isn't it? So when asked, are you doing everything you can to get the best alignment with safe system principles? You're just like, yeah, we were doing pretty well there, but we did even better after we did that. And that's pretty nice story to tell. Now, if there's no, I was going to say, if there's no intention to ever change anything, in the design, you're ticking a box. I would say don't bother, but you may be doing it to sort of get that proof that you're aligning better with safe system principles. But I think really, back to the real purpose of safe system assessments is to improve things, get better alignment with safe system principles, work with the project team to do the best we possibly can. I challenge them, push for more, but let's all work together on that. Now that process there, some of you might be looking at it and going, oh, that looks like the process for a road safety audit, and you'd be right. And it was modeled on that sort of similar process diagram from the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6A, which is implementing road safety audits. And the idea is that we're all pretty comfortable with going through a process like that with a project to get that input. A number of jurisdictions are now at the point where they say, if you do a safe system assessment at an early stage of a project, it replaces the road safety audit at that stage. So if you're in a jurisdiction that has a policy, it says road safety audits must be undertaken at all stages of a project over $5 billion or something like that. At the early stage, feasibility stage, you do a safe system assessment instead. You don't need to do that feasibility road safety audit because you're going to cover all of that and more in the safe system assessment. So that becomes a nice way for us to inject this thinking in and not just add more red tape to a project. We're not about that. It's about getting us the best outcome and just doing these processes to ensure we're getting that. So I like that. I like to see efficiencies like that. Max, jump in at any point if there's anything I need to deal with, but I'm going to just jump into a few of the government websites just to show you where a few things are, and then we'll take a little stretch break in probably 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes. So the Victorian government website, still VicRoads website. I imagine one day they'll make it a DOT website, but just show you this one, then I'll jump to some other jurisdictions. And the Safe System Engineering page has Safe System Assessment info there. And this is where you can find the guidelines for Victoria, the templates for a full and a rapid Safe System Assessment. So you can always go there, download the Word document, and you'll see within there they say, yeah, go nuts, copy it, put your own branding to it, just use this. This is what we're looking for. And that's what you're using. You're using the rapid template for your Safe System Assessment you're currently undertaking. Also within that page, there's some a bit more information, but there's this thing that is called the Register of Recommended Safe System Assessors. And I'll show you. I mean, it's just a PDF list. There's a little snip of some of it, of lots of people. I say lots, you know, I think there's about 50 on there now, which is great, that are recommended Safe System Assessors. And it is just name, company, email address, phone number. That's all the information that's in. And as I say, it's a PDF and it just gets updated. Now, the process to get your name on that register is here in this sort of this process. So, you know, you can have a chat with the Safe System Engineering team if you're interested, or you just jump sort of straight into this blue stages and you do this course. And so you've got your tick there, which is to show that you understand safe system principles, the process, the philosophy. Then you need to actually do a real safe system assessment. Now, you're doing a mock safe system assessment. So what you would need to do is actually get out and do a real one. Now, my advice to you is that there's many, many opportunities if you're looking to do that. Okay, you can literally just within any project you're doing say, hey, I'm doing safe system, I've done the safe system assessment course, and out of these safe system assessments, can I do one as part of this project? They might say, you know, I won't charge you for it or whatever. It's not going to take you a huge amount of time, or you can offer your services to others, but you get out there and you do one, and you go through that process I've just talked about, and you submit it, and they review it and they assess it, and they're getting assurance that you know what you're doing, and then they put you onto the register. So that's Victoria. They don't mandate it's only Victorians that go on the list. So if you're in another jurisdiction, you want to get on that list, send them down one of your safe system assessments if you'd like. South Australia is another one with a register, a list. They'll call them pre-qualified safe system assessors. Now, the South Australians, they also have a PDF list of safe system assessors. Their requirement is a little easier in the sense that they say, if you've done this course and passed, we'll put you on the list. So they are trusting our competency checks throughout the quizzes, the assignments, and the assessment that we're marking, and then they'll put you onto the list. So there's another option for you, and you just need to, well, you need to email it, your certificate to Natasha, and you can just find that on the I was going to say DIPTI website, but it's DIT now, the Department of Infrastructure and Transport website for South Australia. No other jurisdiction has a dedicated specific list. I think Queensland continues to look at the road safety audit list and whether to add another column to just tick also a safe system assessor or the like. The New Zealand doesn't, and New South Wales doesn't. Most just are saying, well, if you've done some sort of course or you know the process really well, I mean, the easiest way is to utilize the certificate of successful completion of this course to prove your competency there. Yeah, and we'll see what plays out. Maybe one day Austroads will decide. I know they're currently looking at harmonising road safety audit to try to get a bit of, if you're an auditor in New South Wales, well, you can do an audit in South Australia or something like that. They're trying to get that harmonisation. So maybe safe system assessments could be lumped into that as well. But yeah, so this is where we're at. But the reality is, if you're in a jurisdiction that has a register, you should get onto that register. If you're not, you can just say that you are a safe system assessor, assuming you successfully complete this course. So Queensland's got a dedicated road safety policy, or at least TMR does. And within that, there's a mandate for safe system assessments to be done on all infrastructure projects. That's interesting. All infrastructure projects. And I did question the view of the prison, like, all infrastructure projects? Well, change a sign, just a faded sign going to a retroreflective sign. We're going to do a safe system assessment on that. So, I think there's a bit of further specifics in which projects, if they're going through a business case process or the like, then they're required to have a safe system assessment. But anyway, there's minor ones. So that's pretty exciting. There's commitment there. Victoria has a little bit more of a policy that states by dollar value, total estimated cost of project, what has to be done in terms of safe system assessments. So this is the Victorian government. The old Vic Roads requirements, they're probably DOT requirements. I haven't seen the policy with a DOT branding on it. But anyway, under $2 million, they say, well, a rapid safe system assessment, if it's determined by whoever's managing the project, that a formal assessment is required. If there's other ways that they believe we're comfortable that everything is aligning with safe system principles, it doesn't need to be done. But $2 million to $5 million, full safe system assessment for anything complex, significant risk of fatal serious injury or anything innovative. And rapid assessments can be done for those lower risk projects. Above $5 million, full safe system assessment for all projects, and only a rapid safe system assessment if it's like a repeat assessment. So an assessment's already been done and it's a repeat assessment. Let me briefly talk to you about the difference between those two. So I've got their full safe system assessment sort of scope and a rapid safe system assessment scope. And really, I'll just go through the full one and I'll cross out a few things that aren't required in a rapid necessarily. You may decide to do them. So commencement meeting or the like, that's a question mark. It's sort of often done very quickly. Bit of handover in a rapid. It's usually a bit more of a process, a workshop, those sorts of things in a full safe system assessment. Background and context, well, you're going to need that in both. Workshop as well. Often those two are combined, but that's really cross that out. It'd be rare to do a workshop for a rapid safe system assessment. Now, the site inspection, I can put a question mark next to that. It's not actually specified it's required in a rapid safe system assessment. Full safe system assessments, you really do. A lot of the times, people doing a rapid safe system assessment would do a site inspection, but sometimes not. They existing conditions matrix, and then and all the options is done on both. Other elements of the safe system, so those qualitative questions get removed from a rapid. So it's just really the matrix and some recommendations, improvement, alignment, yeah. And then the reporting's a little less intense. And then the project team needs to consider adopting things and amend the project. So really it's, potentially they need to do the site inspection, workshop, less reporting, less in terms of those general qualitative questions, and thinking broader around other elements of the SAFE system. So just briefly touching on what some other jurisdictions do before we jump in, well, take our little break and then we jump into some other road environments. What we're seeing, New South Wales is starting to integrate it into contract specifications that a independent safe system assessment is undertaken for some of their larger projects. New Zealand certainly got it integrated into business case requirements, and there's a lot going on now with safe system assessments in New Zealand. As I mentioned, Queensland's got the policy, so there's more and more going on. There's about 200 or 300 TMR staff who are now trained up in safe system assessments. I dare say they're not going to have time to be doing them themselves, or they may be doing some of them, but that's going to build a swell of safe system assessments as part of infrastructure projects. So that's a really good thing. At least they know what it is and where it should be done. South Australia is requiring it on a lot of projects. Tasmania's got it integrated into some of their program requirements. So, it's really, really taking off. And you are still within the early adopters of safe system assessments. You're on the, front here. Some of, Australia and New Zealand's best trained safe system assessors, because it's still early. There's a lot of people who haven't done this work, so you're at a great advantage, and you should be utilizing that. Max, anything before we take our little 5-minute break?
All good at this end, thank you, Ken.
Okay, well, anybody does have any questions or think of any questions, 5 minutes, we're having the break. Let's come back in 4 minutes. And then I'm just going to go through, when we come back, some different road environments, and then Max will show you how to finish off the course. Okay, so back in 4 minutes.
Okay.
All right, Max. Anything else popping up that I need to discuss?
No, but just a reminder, we've got plenty of prizes still to give out to everyone. So for the last session, if you want to ask any pointy questions or something that's on your mind, feel free to pass them through and we'll be sure to get rid of this excess stock.
All right. Max's warehouse is full. He needs to create some space. Well, we will give out some prizes then. The way we'll do that is just going through some road environments and just talking generally about safe system alignment. The reason we want to do this, and I know we've talked a lot about different road environments, road users, and safe system alignment, and you're doing a safe system assessment. The safe system assessment process is the same, despite, regardless of whether you're a residential street or a major urban freeway or the like. Of course, the treatments are different, and you're only really going to do a safe system assessment in this course on one particular road environment, fairly much a full safe system assessment. So what I wanted to do is just very briefly touch on some different road environments, have a bit of a chat about some of the features we could add to get better safe system alignment, in a similar way we did with those artistic images a couple of modules back, but do that just so if the next safe system assessment you do is on a completely different road environment, you've got a few ideas. But of course, like Max and I have done hundreds of safe system assessments on different road environments, and we are more than happy to share these with you so you can see and get ideas, talk to you a little bit about those as you go off and do them in the future. We just really want to see you doing high quality safe system assessments and giving recommendations and ideas to project teams that will improve alignment with safe system principles. Let's start with residential environments, and because Max has said I must give away some prizes, what I'll do is say here we got a road environment. It's a 50k default urban speed limit, residential street. There's a sort of major collector road down here, an arterial road. That's what it is. So what I'll ask you to do is type in things that we could alter here, add to this road environment to get better safe system alignment, and pop in their exposure, likelihood, or severity. And I better write down one or two. And if you get the same as me, you can have a prize. And just looking there, yes, today is the last session as people write their things in. So yeah, last one you have to log into. You've still got to finish that assignment though, and there's a quiz to do. So a little bit more work to do, and then we're done. Right, you're looking at some good stuff here. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Oh, I want to give everybody a prize here. Max, seen wonderful stuff.
Anything aligning with what you've written down, what you jotted down there, Ken?
Well, I wrote down two things, and I'm going to let you decide, Max, as to how many prizes you give out, because mine was a little more generic than some of them. I wrote two things, and there's lots of others here that are great and should be looked at. But I wrote close the road exposure. So I don't know, why are we accessing there? And I also put local area traffic management, and I put so close the road was exposure, local area traffic management, likelihood, and severity. So I see lots of things that are part of the suite of things of local area traffic management. So hence you having to make that decision. But I do like the idea of lower speed limits. I like, yeah, lots of people saying make it low speed environments, and these are just wonderful. And then, yeah, suites of different particular LATM treatments like chicanes, speed humps, and the like. Yeah, gee, Max, that's a tough little job for you now to choose who gets prizes.
Start throwing them out, I reckon.
Yeah, go nuts. Yeah, getting close to Christmas.
The Oprah Winfrey style.
The one, yeah, I suppose bike lanes and removing parking and things, all options. Let's really make sure if we're doing anything like that, we're doing also features to keep the speeds down as well. Something like removing all the parking off a street like this and opening it up to a wider street would just probably see increased travel speeds through there. So lots of things to bring the speeds down. So I think everybody's on the same page there. It's pretty good. This one, I'll give a prize for the person who can tell me where this is straight off the bat, and then we'll have a little bit of a chat about it. First person to tell me where this is.
Just outside Colesgate.
Just like on that. No prize for that.
Bondi Junction.
Yeah, look at that. They're going to him straight in there. Australia.
You're not wrong.
That's right. You can give out some prizes there for Bondi Junction. It is Bondi Junction. So again, I mean, this sort of area, and those who know Bondi Junction, I think you can get into the train station through here, at least straight into the big shopping centre, and then you've got lots of restaurants and there's pubs and bars and all sorts. It's a pretty active place. There is the buses run up and down here as well. But again, I probably won't go through in detail the way we did get your input on this one. But these sorts of environments, when you do the movement of place categorization of these, it's such a place for people. It is so clearly a place for people. So we need to alter it and make it set up more in that space. I mean, for me, these sorts of areas, shared zones, 20 km/h speed zone or lower even, looking to block off vehicles. So the lower speeds, less likelihood, less severity, restricting vehicles. You know, why are we putting cars through these sorts of areas? Is that necessary? Could it just be deliveries and buses and that's it? These sorts of questions are good. I would probably be, well, depending on exactly how it plays out in your movement in place context, fencing off these areas and corralling pedestrians to one crossing point, to me, is not really a great thing to do. First of all, I think fencing off here, you would actually just find people would walk on the road. They would be trapped on the road. So you'd probably increase the risk of pedestrian crashes as a result of doing that. People would jump them because it's just such a, you can see that. And it looks like they used to have those and they removed them, probably for exactly that reason. So the pedestrians are dominating and we just need to bring speeds and things down accordingly. I remember looking at this site probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago maybe, and suggesting a lot of similar ideas about some serious speed reductions and the like. And unfortunately, they weren't taken on due to a number of reasons. Bus challenges with buses was a big one, and unfortunately, some serious injuries and deaths have occurred in that area for pedestrians in this general area in that time since. And is that an acceptable trade-off? I would say no. Buses probably kept to their timetables, but is that a cost that we're willing to bear? And you can easily find fault if that's what you're going to do with drug affected or alcohol affected pedestrians and not giving way as such. But I just don't see that as acceptable. Anyway, that's a bit of a rant, but I think those are all pretty reasonable treatments. Let's talk about this one. Okay, so mixed use arterials is a term that's generally given to your streets like this one. I think this is Oxford Street in Sydney as well. Somebody can confirm that. So say this is a 60 km/h speed environment, which it was at one point. I think it's been reduced to 50 now, but say it's a 60. It was a 60, I think, when this photo was taken. Mixed use arterials is where you're trying to, major traffic route, public transport route. It's the cycling corridor. It also has lots of pedestrian activity. It's just, this is very hard to deal with, as we've talked about before. I think we got some good ideas from our artistic impression example of this on how we could treat it, but let's think about how could we alter this road environment to be better aligned with safe system principles. And I'm going to pop a few down here. And again, I'll give some prizes, but tell me a bit of influences: exposure, likelihood, and severity. All right, Max, lots of great ideas coming in here. Let's give Peter a prize straight off the bat, because I did have some separated facilities. And Peter was saying that there is one plan, separated bike facilities, that is.
It's very good to hear.
Yeah, and Tom can have a prize there, dedicated cycle lanes as well. Lots of other good ideas, separating bits and pieces, lowering the speed. I had lower speed as well. Prue definitely gets a prize, because that's 3 of the same ones that I had as well. So I had raising some of the pedestrian crossing points as well. In there was some, I had variable speed limits. I decided to go variable in this one to try to target speed limit reductions at different times of days, but I'd equally say just lower speed limits is a good one. So Max, actually, you can continue delving through that to see how many prizes you want to give out again. Lots of people are thinking with those, not to say that they were the only ideas. There's a couple of other things I think worth noting. I mean, for these, I like the idea of vertical deflection, as in raised pedestrian crossing points. Is really good for me. It's for 2 reasons. Obviously, at a particular point where we've got more pedestrians crossing, not to say all pedestrians are crossing there, because we can see in the photo there's pedestrian crossing sort of mid-block, but that or away from the crossing, But the reason I like it, because it actually acts a little bit like a local area traffic management device in its own right. Because look at that. I mean, that is a fairly straight, flat run, isn't it? If it was 2 in the morning or the like, well, even maybe this time of day, people just easily have the ability to sort of put the foot down and speed through there. With some vertical deflection, we're going to slow them down and break up that, straight, flat run. So that's just another advantage, apart from the particular conflict point speed reduction. It's more of a, breaking up that run. The other one, this is a little bit different, and some of you will know of this treatment, but for me, I think we're underutilizing this seriously in Australia and New Zealand, is a dwell on red or rest on red scenario. And that is where traffic signal phasing alters the way it works at particular times of the day. So you can do it either at, an intersection, but a mid-block set of signals like this is a good one, where a normal way of operating traffic signals is that they rest on green, don't they? Green for traffic. So traffic is going through there, and it's only when a pedestrian comes up, presses the button and waits, and then it goes to red for vehicles and they cross. The idea of a rest on red scenario is that at particular times of the day, that's flipped, and the drivers will see red as the default, and only when they pull up to the signals, it'll drop the green. Then you get a bit of a wave of traffic, and it goes back to red for traffic. Now, these obviously you're trying to, this is an important traffic route and the like. So during peak hours and things, you probably may decide to run it as usual. But these really are often used around that Thursday night from 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock till the wee hours of the morning, Friday night, Saturday night. And we know we're going to have intoxicated people wandering around here, partying, lots of all the fun stuff in life out there. And we really should be prioritizing the protection of these road users who aren't quite as alert as we'd like them to be, and doing things, sometimes some more risk-taking behavior, that we can really make this a slow route with pedestrians being given a protection priority. And it's just a better way to operate. And it is really a bit of safe system thinking in there, because a lot of people go, well, they shouldn't get intoxicated, they shouldn't walk on the road, they've got a responsibility to protect themselves, and why are we being compromised for their crazy? But we don't get anywhere with that sort of way of thinking about things. It's happening, it's going to continue to happen, and they shouldn't have to pay for this with death or serious injury. Anyway, just a little idea for you. Dwell on red I've used a couple of times and failed many times of getting it in, because the traffic operations people were getting this debate, and they're like, well, I've got to change it from a level of service A at those times to a level of service B, and we don't want to do that for really? We're worried about it midnight on a Friday night, level of service for traffic? This just doesn't make sense. But anyway, I'll let you have some of those debates with your traffic ops people as well. But it's been used in a number of scenarios. The UK loves it on a high street like this. And they'll just go, well, if your if your car travel is disrupted for along the high street during these times, perhaps take a different route. What a great answer. Let's keep going. Okay, low volume rural roads. These are going to be really challenging. And when you do safe system assessments on these, yes, you can, these roads, sometimes 500 vehicles, 200 vehicles a day, lower standard than this. And they're really challenging because when you go to these and start recommending things like central barrier systems, outer barrier systems, widening the road. I mean, the cost to do that, and from a strategic management of the road network perspective, it's just not going to fly. And we've got, hundreds of thousands of kilometres of this type of road and lesser in a lot of Australia and New Zealand. So where you end up with this is, you've got your theoretical ideas on what would give you really great alignment with safe system principles. As I said, a central barrier system, widening outer barrier systems, roundabouts at the major intersections and all that. But a lot of things will be recommended, which are more likely to be going in, which are addressing the likelihood of crashes associated with things like central audio-tactile center line, audio-tactile edge line, and some shoulder sealing and the like, if that's possible. Trying to reduce the severity of crashes at some particularly high-risk locations with trees close to the road and things. So there's a lot of traditional road safety stuff in these, but the big one I really think is us managing speed significantly down on these roads. Now, the community's not ready for that. I mean, nowhere near ready for that. So the idea of running these roads at 70 kilometres an hour or maybe 80 kilometres per hour, but ideally 70 kilometres per hour, may sound ludicrous to a lot of you, and it certainly sounds ludicrous to a lot of the community. But the reality is we can't, at this stage, function these roads with closer alignment with safe system principles without managing speed. And what we ideally would do is be running these at side of 70 or something like that, but the parallel or the other alternate route on the major national highway or the state highways where we have invested in the infrastructure are 100, 110, I don't care, 120, fine. Like, you should be able to look at your Google map and go, well, I could take the old Dookie Road here. This is the old Dookie Road for those who know it. So I could take that for my 100-kilometre journey, or I could go out of my way and get on the Hume. And you go, well, I'm running that one at 70 kilometres per hour, and I can take the Hume at 110, 120, I don't care. And it's going to be quicker. And of course, it's going to be safer because we've basically put wall-to-wall barrier on the Hume and grade separated every interchange. And you might go, well, yeah, that's all nice utopian theory. I mean, the Swedes pretty much did that. They did a blanket default 70 kilometre per hour rural speed limit. And then they raised the speed on appropriate roads. So, it is possible. We're in a different culture and we've got a lot more distance to travel than the Swedes, but that is sort of a beautiful way of doing it. I mean, we fight every single speed zone reduction on a road like this, and it is a fight, and you lose a lot of it. And they just sort of ripped the band-aid off one big rip, and then they raised appropriate roads, and so it's a much better. Anyway, I think the other elements of the safe system are really going to hold a lot of the key in these type of road environments, and you would, in your safe system assessment, hopefully be recommending some of that point-to-point speed cameras, but mobile point-to-point. The technology is pretty much there, ready to go. So the idea being, the way we have mobile speed cameras, so the car's parked somewhere, we have mobile point-to-point, so they park the car at one end of this road, and then maybe 20 k's down the road, there'd be another parked vehicle that'd be doing that point-to-point speed enforcement, and then being able to move that around. So that would be really hugely valuable. A lot of vehicle technology helping out here. But yeah, a lot of stuff for the likelihood of crashes at this stage. I would still, in your safe system assessment, say consider putting in speed limit reductions in these roads. We're going to see reductions in the likelihood of crashes and some severity reduction. It'll challenge a lot of project teams, but yeah, I'll leave it at that. Speed management is just a fascinating topic. But when you get to the higher volume, higher order roads is where we are going to invest the infrastructure. So it doesn't look high volume here, but it is a higher volume road. Obviously, take a photo in the middle of the road when there's too many vehicles around. These are the ones that are going to get the central barrier systems, bit of widening, edge barriers, and we're going to see those speeds still remaining high with great safe system alignment. And when we get to the intersections, ideally roundabouts, if you combine that with central barrier systems, you can actually take some of your minor accesses and the like that can access onto the road and go back the other way. So you can use that. There's a nice sort of safe system vision plans for corridors where you can do some of this and say, an ideal scenario, we have roundabouts at these 10 intersection locations along this route, so we can do continuous barriers, so we can collect these roads and give them appropriate acceleration lanes, so the delta V, the change in speed as they merge in is good and it's fully protected. I mean, you're getting pretty wonderful ideas, and then you can stage how you deliver out that plan with funding available and the like. But that's the kind of way we think about these higher volume rural roads as they sort of go up. Just check how we're going on time. I'll probably just jump through the last ones, give Max a chance to show you how to finish the course off, and then give you some time to do the quiz and get back to your safe system assignment. And yeah, just a chance for any questions at the end. So high volume outer suburban arterials or outer arterials, some people, would call these the traffic sewers, but the important traffic routes, we really need to treat them accordingly. If it's been defined as a traffic priority route, there is low alignment with safe system principles by mixing or having cycle lanes on these roads, dedicated separated cycle facilities, separation of vulnerable road users if traffic is a priority, underpasses, overpasses for pedestrians, or dedicated crossing points. And at those points, you're going to have to look to, raise intersections, lower speeds through intersections and those sort of things. We talked a bit about those in the past. And then of course, all the other things like lighting and appropriate sight distances and everything like that to reduce the likelihood of crashes, but thinking about severity at conflict points. Max?
Peter's just asking if you actually have a metric for what you consider high volume. So you've got this one for metro, but also rural roads as well. Is there a cutoff?
Not particularly. Certainly, you're sort of for 3,000, 4,000 vehicles a day in those outer areas. I'd consider them the higher volume. Above that, and then the urban ones, yeah, it's these sorts of roads, 20,000 up in AADT for vehicles. But yeah, they're just sort of broad categories. I don't know if that's sort of documented anywhere.
Not that I've seen either, Ken.
Yeah. So motorways or freeways, urban freeways, motorways. These are an interesting one to safe system assess. I mean, they usually come out pretty well in terms of likelihood of crash and severity of crash. Exposure's obviously going to be 4 for vehicles. Interestingly, they come out as usually surprisingly high for pedestrians as well. I think we might have mentioned this earlier, but those are more people, broken down vehicles, getting out of taxis, wandering on these environments. So there's a couple of points in time where the likelihood of crashes spikes in these. One is as the freeway breaks down. They tend to operate really low likelihood of crashes in free flow, really low likelihood of, really low severity of crashes in when they're absolutely stuffed, like, you know, everybody's going at 10 kilometers an hour, but there's lots of little bingles, but they're very minor. The big road safety risk time is as the freeway breaks down in traffic flow, and the ways that are showing good reduction in the likelihood and severity of crashes associated with these are managed motorways. So essentially, you know, your gantries and your lane advice and your speeds and your proactive reduction in speed before incidents, as your freeway flow algorithm tells you it's about to start breaking down in terms of traffic flow. You can proactively reduce speed, manage entry ramps, so metering, ramp metering, lots of different little bits and pieces like that. And of course, utilizing this technology to protect vulnerable road users. So if there's a broken down vehicle, speeds down, blanketing speeds down. So those are the kind of things that really you see often in safe system assessments of these. And there's a lot more probably work in the ITS, Intelligent Transport System, when you're assessing these routes to get in and nut out what they're doing in those with those sorts of technologies and the management of the motorway rather than so much the physical infrastructure. Although you do look at that as well. And can you use more flexible barrier systems? Would that be appropriate? Merge ramps, weaves, those sorts of things can be increasing likelihood of crashes often. And major rural highways. I think we've talked about this enough already, but I mean, these are going to be full containment with barrier systems to get us high line of safe system principles, flexible barrier systems, a nice 4 to 6 metre offset in the flexible barrier system, grade separation at the interchanges. And if you can't grade separate, you're really going to have to either look at some sort of side activated speed limit reduction for the main road, which is not going to be, you know, people aren't too happy that the freight and everything has to slow down for the side road. But the alternate option, would be a roundabout. But again, people aren't too happy often with that on national highways. But then the idea that a vehicle would come out, accelerate up left, have enough space to merge with good conflict angles and delta V change in speed, U-turn, accelerate back, merge back in, and then make their turn if they need, or keep going straight. That's sort of how you can do it at grade in a reasonable, safe system aligned manner, where you can get your likelihoods fairly low with good length acceleration and merge, and your severity stays low because delta, the change in speed is low and the angles are good. You got always a little bit of a challenge of merge from the right is never a great move, so that one needs to be thought about carefully. But without grade separating or doing speed reductions, that's probably the only option we can think of at the moment. Maybe some of the wonderful innovative people in this group may think of other ways that you could do that. All right, I think that was a nice little just snapshot of a whole lot of different road environments, a few ideas. There's many more and people will come up with other ideas, but it's probably about all the content I want to cover for this course. Max, I'll hand to you to just show people how to finish, and then I'll just sum up at the end.
No worries. I've got one more question for you though, Ken, which I believe it was raised in our previous module, and I just thought it's worth explaining in a bit of detail. But imagine if you were conducting a safe system assessment and the road carriageway, the function changes throughout your alignment that you're assessing. So one part could be, a shopping district, sorry. Another part could be just local residential streets, and even the intersections might change. You might have one signalized intersection, one roundabout, one priority controlled intersection. How about would you go conducting a safe system assessment on those variety of road environments?
Yes, it is a wonderful question, and we have provided on your memory stick and in Moodle a fact sheet on how to undertake that assessment. The Victorian government guidelines, which I showed you on the website, and the South Australian guidelines have, the Victorian government guidelines has an appendix on how to you can do that. But essentially, you chop it up into homogeneous sections, and you assess each homogeneous section and provide that output of that graph for each section. Now, there's always a little bit of debate about how you chop it up, where the appropriate sections are. Then, if you're absolutely determined to get one score at the end of it, you need to do some sort of weighted average of scoring based on length, volume, through those sections. And that gets a bit tricky but our colleague Chris Hall is a bit of a guru at the spreadsheets behind the scene on that, multiple chopping up and weighted averages. But I do suggest you have a read of the fact sheet that we've provided you. Yeah, and if you are, we're happy to chat through a good methodology for that if you've got one of those.
Thank you, Ken. So I'll share my screen. Open up Moodle. Is that shared over, Ken?
Yep.
Beautiful. So today's module, we do have a quiz at the end of the day, final quiz. So probably get onto that just after this webinar. And then at the bottom, we do have the feedback and certificates section. So in order to achieve your certificates, there's a whole list of things that you need to complete. So you need to have done all the quizzes and achieved the required competency benchmark, which is the 80%. Have completed both the assignments, and they've both been graded and reviewed, and once again achieved that 80%. And you also need to provide the course feedback. And the reason for that is we certainly want to make sure that we've done everything we can to make this webinar as engaging as possible, and we've covered through the content that you wanted to go through. And if you do have any feedback that will help us improve our delivery, we want to hear that. So yes, we've made that all part of getting your certificate. So once you've completed all that work, you'll see at the moment I can't click on the SSA certificate because I haven't completed all of that. Once you've done it all though, Moodle recognizes that, and you'll be able to click on that as a hyperlink, and then we get a notification and we will post out your certificate to your address, as well as all of the prizes that you may have won over the last couple of weeks. And you'll get a nice big happy package with a certificate saying that you've completed this course. We'll also email you a soft copy of it as well for your records, so you can use that going forward. But yes, everything should be nice and tidy after the SSA certificate is completed. And we generally provide access to Moodle for a couple of months following this course, but after that you will be taken off the register. So if you do want to download any of those resources, please do make sure, I suppose, prior to the end of the year. Ken, back to you.
Yeah, I was just popping in there. So it's a question about like a gravel arrestor bed in the middle of a major highway. So I commissioned a study quite a while back about utilisation of vegetation in the roadside to slow vehicles, or and in the median, and we also looked at some different surface treatments like sand arrestor beds, essentially. And so it was one of the safe system snippets. We do safe system snippets, so we've got a couple 100 safe system snippets on little topics like that, about what's been done in research on our website. We do that on LinkedIn, and we put them out there. We did a little one on that, just some insights with that. The challenges, so the theory is good. The theory is sound that you could do that. You could create a roadside with some sort of shrub style vegetation that vehicles can leave the road, that hit that slow down. And, you don't need to use barriers. You get all the wonderful, plants, vegetation, all that. It's really nice idea. And there were some plant species that were seen to be about right from that perspective. And certainly the idea of sand traps and those sort of things all in theory work. It's the practical implementation of them that's the challenge. the maintenance of it. So as vehicles leave the road, they knock down all of this vegetation. How do you maintain that? How does it regrow? And the sand and arrestor beds and the like were they, due to weather, would go hard again. Sometimes go hard. They'd have things grow in them. So the maintenance challenges was really the thing that was putting people off. Also, things like motorcycles for the vegetation one, they'd actually do quite well in the arrestor beds and these sorts of areas. So in theory, yes. And if you can work out some of the practical operational maintenance issues, then I think it holds some good opportunity.
I'm wondering also, if you went for the vegetation option, if there'd be additional kind of roadkill in the area, if you're bringing animals closer to the carriageway, they're actually using it as a habitat and maybe, increase the opportunity of crossing. It's
a really good point. There was also lots of discussion about you kind of need to have a single species, so you don't get your different species in there, and the other species will grow and they'll be different strengths, and so you're actually going to have to be going through and weeding as such. Anyway, I just want to sum up and say thank you to everybody for taking time out of your extremely busy schedules to have a discussion about how we can improve and protect our community from death and serious injury. I think safe system assessments are one of the great tools that we have now in our toolkit to do this. I really encourage you to get out there and do this and get amongst it, do safe system assessments. And you are now real safe system champions. I know a lot of you were already that, and this adds a way for you to present some of that passion in a particular report format and a way to inject that into projects. But really, get out there. Let's challenge some of the normal ways of operating within the road environment, because it leaves a residual of death and serious injury to our community, and we need to keep challenging that. It's not easy, but there's a lot of people who are on the same page, and so let's share our ideas. As I was saying, please at any point contact Max or myself if you're dealing with a topic and you go, I wonder if anybody else has done anything. If we know of something, we can direct you to other people. If we've done stuff, we can share reports with you, share examples. And we just really want to see lots of awesome road safety work happening out there, and we want you to be a big part of that. So thank you very much. Thanks, Max, for your work behind the scenes. Everybody, let's finish off those assignments, get that certificate, and get out there and do lots of safe system assessments.
Fantastic. Thanks to everyone for your commentary and joining in the conversation and just being engaged. It's fantastic to see. And thanks also to Ken for running this fabulous webinar, and look forward to staying in touch with you all and hearing how the assignments went as well. So enjoy your day, and yes, take care.
Bye.
See ya.